Welcome back everyone. Let's go ahead and do a camera comparison between the iPhone SE 3rd generation and the iPhone 11. Now both these iPhones are the cheapest iPhones technically you can buy brand new from Apple, so it's going to be very interesting how they both hold up. Now I will tell you, the camera setup immediately is completely different on both. The iPhone SE 3 has that single lens on the back 12 megapixel sensor. You can do 4K at 60 on it, which is great, but you can do 1080p video on the front. With the iPhone 11, you'll have a dual camera setup. So you have a wide and an ultra-wide sensor. That ultra-wide sensor allows you to zoom out a lot, which is really cool. In this specific video, I didn't showcase that because it's kind of unfair, but you do have that ability of zooming out a lot more on the iPhone 11, but also you have 4K at 60 on the front and the back, where the iPhone SE only has it on the back of the phone. So keep that in mind. The way I took these photos, I took them in the exact same lighting conditions, nothing crazy, literally within seconds within each other. And honestly, I'm really kind of not surprised. I mean, both these photos look great overall, but there are some differences here or there that I'll probably tell you. So the iPhone SE 3 videos, or photos in this case, will be on the left. The iPhone 11 photos will be on the right. And this first photo, I mean, there's not really anything crazy here that stands out when you're looking at them kind of from a bird's eye view. I think both of them did a pretty good job. If I go and zoom into something like this little portion of the iPhone SE 3 photo, I can kind of see that maybe the dirt looks a little bit darker on something like an iPhone 11, but even that's not the case, because if I look right here, this kind of looks a little bit darker here than on something like the iPhone SE 3. I will say though, both these photos I think look pretty good overall. There really isn't anything that stands out, and that pretty much covers up this specific photo. Again, I wish there was more to talk about on this one, but there really isn't. This is kind of like a decent photo to start with because there's a bunch of colors. Hopefully you guys can kind of see what the differences are, but I can't really tell too many differences when it comes out of these specific photos. Now next up, this is an outdoor photo, and I actually do like this photo a lot. It definitely kind of showcases, I guess, some highlights of both these specific phones. Now, immediately without even zooming in, I can't really tell too many differences, but once actually zooming into like this specific leaf right here, I am able to see that overall, they both do a good job at kind of handling the colors. I will say though, it looks like the iPhone SE 3, I'm assuming with that Apple A15 Bionic chip, kind of does a better job at kind of darkening the photo. And I've talked about this before. Having somewhat of a darker photo makes things look a little bit cooler sometimes, kind of no pun intended. The background looks about the same. There's not really one specific portion that looks way better than the other one. If I go and zoom into like this specific portion here and I zoom into this portion here, again, there really isn't anything that stands out to me. I kind of get the same exact vibe between both. So both these colors look really good. Again, I don't have too much to complain about, and I'm actually really happy about that. You can kind of see that with this specific portion here. It also looks a little bit sharper than the iPhone 11's photo. So I'll probably say the iPhone SE 3 photo here maybe looks a little bit better. Now next up we have this indoor photo. Nothing crazy. This one was just, some really bad lighting, and because every lighting isn't going to be perfect, I just wanted to demonstrate what this would look like. And I mean, here I can't really tell too many differences either. And this specific portion here looks maybe a little bit darker on the iPhone SE 3, which may be a good thing for some people. Other than that though, they look kind of the same thing. There's not really a whole lot of stuff here that kind of separates. I mean, they both kind of look the same here too. So that kind of covers it up with this photo. Now next up we have this specific photo, which is literally just a bunch of flowers and stuff indoors again. The lighting is kind of iffy, I will be honest, and zooming into this specific little leaf flower thing right here, I'm kind of able to tell that the iPhone SE 3 photo looks a little bit brighter, the iPhone 11 photo looks a little bit darker, and I do think the flowers in the background though look a little bit better on the iPhone 11. I feel like with the iPhone SE 3, it seems almost a little bit overexposed, which isn't a problem necessarily. But I do think I get the vibe that this one is a little bit better on the iPhone 11 than the iPhone SE 3, at least for the back photos or the back flowers right here. On the bottom though, there's really not much else different here. They both kind of look like the same thing like I mentioned before. These photos, or this little like portion right here, I will probably say the iPhone 11 again looks a little tad bit better. If you look at this flower here, I kind of see a little bit better here, but also with the sunflower thing in the background, it looks a little bit better on the iPhone 11 too. So nothing in particular. Both these photos look kind of the same, but they both look pretty good overall too. Now getting into this next photo, this is an outdoor one again. I tapped the focus on both these things as well. Not zooming in, they look almost identically the same photo. If you told me one was whichever one, I would probably believe you. They both look almost exactly the same. If I go and zoom into this little portion here, this is kind of the area I've been looking at. If I go and zoom into the iPhone 11 photo, one thing I've been seeing is that the bokeh effect on something like an iPhone 11, even an iPhone XS I think, or XR, and does a better job at blurring out some of the background than the iPhone SE 3. It's not a big deal, but it is one thing that I've seen. So the background seems a lot more blurred out on something like an iPhone 11 than on something like the iPhone SE 3. So that is a big thing to keep in mind. I will tell you that the colors overall look pretty good on both. There really isn't anything super crazy to one another that's like, oh, this one is way better here. They both kind of give me the same vibe, so I think that's a big thing to keep in mind too. But I will tell you the iPhone 11 does a better job at blurring out the background, but the quality of the photos, are great on both. There isn't one that's way better quality than the other one, so I think that's a big thing to keep in mind as well. But when it comes down to these two, I'll probably tell you both these photos look really good, but the iPhone 11 I think is probably the better one here. Now this next photo, again outdoors, kind of the sighting here, and not really too many differences here. This one on the iPhone 11 looks a little bit more warmer than the iPhone SE 3. So if you're somebody who wants to go and get a photo and have it a little bit warmer, well, this one is probably the bigger difference. With if you look at this little side here and this little side here, it definitely looks like to me that the iPhone 11 warmer job. I don't know if necessarily one is better than the other one here, but I'll let you guys decide if you like or prefer one over the other one. Now this next photo, I love this type of photo because it's just of this background with this little lamppost thing. And if you go and zoom into this little stem here, and if you go and zoom into this little stem here, one thing I've been kind of seeing is that with something like an iPhone SE 3, it did a pretty good job at focusing in exactly where I wanted it to focus in on, and kind of not necessarily blurring out the background, but at least it focused in on this spot. With the iPhone 11, although it doesn't really look like this specific little stem thing is in focus 100%, you can tell that it did blur out the background a little bit more. If you look at this little side here, if you look at this little side here, it does look like it's a little bit more blurred out on the iPhone 11 than on the iPhone SE 3. But it's kind of hard to tell unless you're looking at it like side by side completely. But that was one thing I immediately saw. But I do think between both, they look really, really good. I might tell you the iPhone SE 3 photo looks a little bit better here. So that was one thing that kind of shocked me right now. So I'd probably side with the iPhone 11 being maybe not as good as the iPhone SE 3, but both are kind of good when it comes down to it. Now finally, I took a portrait mode photo on both. Now the iPhone 11 does support portrait mode on animals. The iPhone SE 3 on the other hand does not support portrait mode on animals. So that's kind of a disadvantage. With this photo, you can see the background is much more blurred out on the iPhone 11 than the iPhone SE 3. If you look at the top right corner here, you can just see, look at how much more blurred out it is on something like the iPhone SE on the iPhone 11 than on the iPhone SE 3. And that's kind of a disadvantage. When you're getting a phone like the iPhone SE 3, it doesn't even have this basic feature that basically all iPhones have nowadays. So even an iPhone 11 from 2019 has this feature, where the iPhone SE 3 does not have it. So that's kind of a disadvantage there. I will tell you though, the quality of the photos on both look pretty good, but I will tell you the iPhone 11 probably wins here as well. So to be completely honest, when it comes down to these specific photos, I'll probably tell you the iPhone 11 is probably, I would say it's better here and there. I don't necessarily think one specific camera here is the better one 100% of the time. I do think with the iPhone SE 3, it has a lot going for it having the same camera as like an iPhone 8. But for its price tag, it doesn't really surprise me. It's not shocking by any means. It kind of gives me the same vibe as something like an iPhone, SE 2 and an iPhone 8 would give. It does have portrait mode, which is nice, but it doesn't have portrait mode on animals, which is weird. It also lacks that ultra-wide sensor. That ultra-wide sensor is really awesome. You can utilize it in a ton of different social media applications. You can also utilize it in the stock camera app, which is nice. And having that ability of zooming out a lot into a photo is really cool, and I love that capability. You also have 4K at 60 on the front of the iPhone 11, where you don't have it on the iPhone SE 3 either. I will tell you though, if you currently own an iPhone SE 3, I don't think I would necessarily go to an iPhone 11 just because of the camera, but with the mixture of the camera, with the mixture of the gesture-based design, the newer design, somewhat better battery life here and there, I would kind of side with the iPhone 11 being the better camera here still. You have a little bit more capability with that type of lens, but the iPhone SE 3 is a decent camera. It's not bad by any means. I think the A15 Bionic chip really does help it out a lot, but I would probably side with the iPhone 11 here as a total good camera. But the iPhone SE 3 is still a good camera too. It's not a bad camera by any means, but that's kind of how it kind of, sum it up. If you have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.